Vegas, World Tea Expo 2011. I've got Dan Bolton with me from World Tea News. A background in coffee. I'm going to let him explain a little bit more about that because he's got years of experience in publication and specialty beverages. So, without further ado, Dan, you can tell us something about yourself.
Great to meet all of you guys. I'm Dan Bolton. I'm the editor and publisher now of World Tea News, which is the online, see what we got in common, online communication resource for the tea industry. I'm a veteran of about 25 years of newspaper experience, culminating in work at the Los Angeles Times and various other locations. And in the last 20 years or so, I've been spending my time on the business of retail, and specifically in the last 10 years on the business of beverage retail. I've run liquor magazines for bars and restaurants and hotels, magazines for the coffee industry, especially coffee retailer, and then most recently, and with great enthusiasm, the World Tea News, which is again our online communication resource.
And Dan, I was just in Dan's seminar where he was talking about top trends, especially for retailers, and that's tea trends, of course. And I was going to ask a little bit about that. That was a great seminar, and you focused a lot about information that for helping people really build up and strengthen their retail stores. You also gave real-time information on what people's what their data is as far as sales, how many customers are coming through the door. So that was very useful to people. But as far as the online aspect, I wanted to ask some of your opinions about trends that you see there. I think you also mentioned a little bit about brick and mortar retailers who have online sales as well.
Online is where it's at. It's a great place to be with tea. It's a very inexpensive product to ship. It's a product that people need to be educated about, so they get a lot of information. Online they can see wonderful bloggers drink the stuff, talk about the stuff, get the virtual experience associated with it. And I think probably most important with tea is they can experiment. Tea is that thing that you want to experiment with. There's so many different kinds of teas and so many different ways to serve it, and when one understands those aspects of it, there's just so many wonderful ways to enjoy it. The thing I've noticed about the brick and mortar people in the last 5 years certainly has been that they're focused on what they would call basics, which is that they've laid off 3 out of 5 members of their staff and trying to keep the store open. And on the food service side, growth rates are 1.5%. Maybe they go to 2%. Closures are still high. So if you're a food service tea vendor, it's a tough world out there, and the $150,000 to $200,000 you invest in the beginning might or might not come back. If you're a merchant, 900 square feet, 150 types of tea, and one person manning the store, it's pretty good business. $600,000-$700,000 a year is very common. $800,000-$900,000 a year is becoming more common. And as I pointed out this morning, there's one chain, Tivana, is doing $862,000 per store across 146 stores in 34 states. So they're demonstrating that there is, the ability to do this, to profit by it, and that there's, in this case, they were returning about $165,000 in gross funds to the office per store, growing at 8.7%. All these things are good signs that the tea retail is healthy. Now, I mentioned Tivana because about 7% of their revenue comes from online, and in their IPO, their initial public offering documents, they stated that essential, absolutely essential to their growth plan and success is expanding online sales from 7 to 10% in the immediate future. This is the next 2 years and beyond. So they're a brick and mortar that clearly mandates the reasonable, we're not talking about 50% revenue, but they're projecting a reasonable leap from 7 to 10%. Now, they're a $125 million company, so they're doing, they're hoping they would do that about $12-13 million a year online. So those of you who see yourselves in the business and picture, $12 million a year coming in over the transom, can see where there's, some real advantage in it. And in particular, in this merchant world, because large selections, high turnover, lots of variety, why not have a back room? And why not, in the back room, distribute the tea online? And with minimal additional expense, promote your shop, promote your business, promote tea in general, and benefit from the fact that orders come in 24/7 from all over the country, and you got great margins on it. So I'm big on online. I think it's a great opportunity.
Well, that brings up a concern. If you were a small-time retailer and you spend so much effort building up customers and getting them to trust you and comfortable and familiar with your teas, and then once they get some confidence, is there a concern that they will go online to comparison shop and find their teas on their own after they've got that level of confidence and they no longer need that small-time local retailer?
Absolutely, and it works the other way too. You can aggregate online and introduce people using an online venture like Roasty or Go Coffee Go, and drive traffic back to your store that you would have never known before. Some guy in Philadelphia starts buying your coffee through online, and then he says, "Well, I'm in Philadelphia, I'll just go down to the shop." I think the possibility of cannibalism is very high, but I also think that there's a service component here, a location component, a convenience component, and then there's that old sense of, what they said online was that it was fresh or whatever, but you and I both know we can open the canister in the shop. Didn't work for me, Online, it's always like, first you put your money up, and then you kind of hope it shows up. The other day, it was a great example. These little guys in Tokyo are selling radishes, certified organic radishes, and just because they flipped the Geiger counter and moved over the top of the radishes because they didn't want to accidentally send out anything. And they put it over their tea and found that the thing pegs out at double what the Japanese allow. And you know what? They'd already sent out several thousand packages.
Yeah.
So you could just see people sitting down going, whoa, this is really great tea. I've been having a wonderful time. And because it's online, because of the way it works, had they been going into the store, the owner of the store, in 3 seconds flat would have thrown it out or put quarantined it off. And in 3 seconds flat, the owner would have explained, here's the situation, here's why you shouldn't be worried, but this is why you shouldn't be drinking it. None of that happens online. It's sort of a, thanks for your money. And if you're a reputable online dealer and you develop the relationships and you've got the email thing going on and your repeat customers, I see no difference between that and the beauty of going into a shop and having those conversations. But that isn't kind of how it's working out there.
Right.
To me, it looks like there's a swimming pool full of sharks, and there's just enough meat to keep them from starving, but not enough meat in water to really, they'd eat each other if they were bigger, but they're not. So they're kind of like looking at each other, working at each other, and when a morsel drops in the pool, they pounce on it and each other gets rid of the piece. There is a role for online, let's call it relationship sales, because I see guys who online go to Japan or wherever, China, they hang out with some people, they taste the teas, they go, this flush is going to be good this year, and here's why. And here's 3 guys that I think you might want to buy the tea from, and I'm happy to sell the tea. Here's my relationship, it's all transparent. When you see those like some of the green tea guys, that sort of stuff, you just think, what a great, this is a guy who's going to Japan, checking out the teas for me, vetting them for their quality, packaging them up, sending them to me, making my life easy, explaining to me how to properly prepare it. What a great service. It's like having your own personal valet, right?
Right.
And don't you, when you run across those kind of merchants, think, oh, this internet, this is so cool. You get to meet the grower, you get to see the factory, whole different relationship. So if it was a relationship sale, that's one thing. But we both know an awful lot of what happens is that this guy buys some tea, and then this guy buys some tea from this guy, and this guy buys some tea from this guy, and then this guy buys some tea from this guy. So it's already been marked up like 5 times. And then this guy says, oh, this is authentic, such and such. Here's a picture of the guy. He doesn't know that guy. He's never met him. He doesn't go to China. He doesn't know the first thing about it. And then he's purporting to know all about Chinese tea, right? So he gives misinformation. This guy gives misinformation. This guy gives misinformation. This guy gives misinformation. And this guy gives you perfectly accurate, absolutely clear information, which is completely obscured by a wave of, misinformation. So, yeah, bless you. You're doing all the right things. But the cacophony, the complication of typing in something like quality cincha It's just overwhelming. Can there be that much quality censure? Can there be that many people who purport to be experts on quality censure? And the answer is no.
Right. Well,
There are a few.
you're touching on the activity of a lot of tea bloggers as well here, because you're talking about that kind of relationship aspect where the tea blogger can share a lot of information, somewhat of a substitute for the walking into the retail store. Some trends that you may see in tea blogging, and I don't know, maybe some of what you see strengths and weaknesses there.
I love you guys. I think that this isn't at all different than a restaurant where I might go to the restaurant. I'm not sure. So I listen to this guy who I've trusted before, who's got a good palate, a great reputation, and he says, salmon can't be beat. I go to the restaurant. I taste it. Salmon can't be beat. It's a great service. When I went in newspapers, I always had many people working for me in the system who were columnists, you know, the old-fashioned word for blogger, and they were, you know, people who sort of understood the palate of the community, people who understood the movie sensibility of the community, people who understood the rock and roll craziness of the community, people who would go to the symphony and the ballet, right? And when they wrote in full, right? So that's the only thing I would ask of the world of blogosphere, is know what you're talking about. Right? Because you can differ, you can say this is really not so good, and I can say this is really good, and we're both informed, we both have a palate, we both studied it, and your preferences are different, perhaps, and mine is. Does that make me bad? The first time somebody handed me matcha, I said, God, it tastes like alfalfa. And the Japanese huddled and go, oh, what alfalfa? I'm like, what is that? And I go, it's grass. We chew it when we were in Kansas cutting all the wheat. And they go, oh, very good. Yeah, I appreciate the grass. And I'm like totally into the grass. It was great. I loved it. And you know what I was saying to them is that my palate was stimulated by the thing that they had worked hardest to generate in that particular, you know, grassy sort of tea. And that's okay. I can even do dumb things like say, yeah, it tastes like alfalfa. And it's okay, right? Because there's other guys in Kansas who work combines who probably say things like, yeah, I can drink tea that tastes like grass. It's like chew on grass all day. Yeah. I get used to it. And honestly, grass is kind of cool. Cows like it. It works for people too.
Now, let's talk a little bit about, we talked about your experience with publications, talking about the World Tea News.
Yeah.
I know that the Association of Tea Bloggers has partnered with you guys, or we as a member of the Association of Tea Bloggers. It's been great. What else should we be looking forward to? What are you going to keep from the past as well?
Well, I tell you, I've got 217 stories I wrote. So that's 3 months, a couple of 100 stories. You know, I'm like cooking. I started charging folks, sorry about that. Otherwise, like, I don't eat. And the principal reason for charging was because I'm hiring professional people to gather the information. You saw my presentation this morning. That took, you know, how long. They got a little clock on the PowerPoint that tells you how many hours you looked at it.
Yeah.
Well, it was like 400 hours. So I don't want to look at that clock, and that was last week. So what I think what we need to do is we need to, as I was talking about in the presentation today, we need to analyze the market. We need to enter some disciplines about, you know, the coffee, tea industry. You know, you think of coffee as advanced, but they started doing tracking reports last year, and they're 100 times bigger than we are, and it took them 40 years to 30 years to figure it out. So, you know, I say this is a chance for us to get ahead. But just real long and short of it is, we're business inside. So you're all about the leaf. The bloggers are way good at leaf, and I'd like to think that we're way good about explaining how the leaf makes money and how one makes money enough to buy the leaf. And so the way that the relationship will work is that the person who needs the education, like in our boot camp yesterday, spent an entire day talking about, you know, labeling requirements and business requirements, and then we spent an entire day tasting, we made 1,300 pots of tea yesterday. And we served it, and each pot served, you
That's
know,
a lot of trips to the bathroom.
1,300 pots of tea yesterday from every conceivable angle. We did, typically we'd do 6 teas from each country, and sometimes 6 from one region like there's you here. And so there's the leaf, there's the business. I'm all about the business, but I couldn't do it without you because then I'd have to be the leaf guy too, you know, and you can't do too many things for too many people.
Well, I look forward, like the benchmarking that you were talking about this morning, that sounds excellent. There was a lot of immediate feedback of people saying, yes, we need this kind of thing. So.
Yeah, you know, sadly, they're not getting enough on each ticket, meaning that the average transaction that they're conducting, $8, $10, $12.
Right.
And they're not getting enough people in the store. 6, 8, 10 people in the store. So if you're open for business for 8 hours and you only have 10 people come in and they only spend $10 a piece, then you can kind of see where there might be a problem, since you got to pay for electricity and rent and everything else. So I said to him, I don't really care which of these two benchmarks you choose to alter. If you're at a mall and you know you got a lot of people, then I'd get your per ticket price up, because inevitably a certain percentage of people are going to stumble into your store, and that's that. If you're at a destination where people have to, kind of work to find you, then it's going to be a pretty desolate destination unless you create some incentives for them to appear. So that guy needs to work on traffic, the other guy needs to work on tipping. If I was a businessman, I would pay very close attention to my traffic and ticket, which is why I said we need to do a quarterly report of the industry with a third party, not routine news, so it would be commissioned by us, but it would not be influenced by us in any way. And then essentially we would be the people to tell everybody what we never found out, right? Because the research company isn't going to spend any money trying to put the word out or give you advice on what to do with it. They're just going to collect the information, collect the information. What I would think we would do, and a good place for us to be, is authoritative information like I presented today, which was fact-based and dealt. Wasn't that a wonderful thing? When you got, we had like 50 people, right? 40 some odd, 50 people. Right. So here you got 50 retailers all gathered together in one place, giving specific information about what they're doing. If you'd have asked them to raise their hands, it would have been intimidating. It wouldn't have done it. It was cool technology, right?
Yeah, it was real time. Numbers just pop.
The little chart kind of goes 17, 16, 14, 19, 11%, and then suddenly it settles down. And the best part about that is that the survey continues. So if you go to World T News and download that program, it's in real time. You would complete the survey just like anyone else does. You'd have to input the information, and then it'll give you your results. So you can be the 51st guy and see how you do in comparison to everything else. Yeah. I'm going to keep that live for a couple of months because 50 is not a good enough sample size for me. Great start. Right. Thought it was they figured it out. It was hard enough to deal with the technology. But let's say 1,000. Yeah. You can hang my hat. Yeah. Well, and I'll shoot it. That's what we do. We'll let you know what's happening.
Well, I look forward to all the good things that we can be doing together, and look forward to at least what you can offer us.
And I want you to send me some great teas, man.
We'll go down to the shop floor and find them all together.
Good. Send them all to him, and then when you like it, send it to me.
We can do that.
Yeah, that'll work great.
So thanks for coming. Yeah, thanks, Dan. Thanks for coming to Walker T Review.